just waiting for you to do, to do, to do,
I've been wearing Sperry boat shoes since I was a kid, and my dad did too. Whenever we would fish, my pops was always in his Sperry's, and so was I. They have the best boat shoes on the planet. There's really no competition. So use our exclusive code BFC20 to shop now and get 20% off your purchase of $99 or more. Offer is valid till September 1st. Again, that code is BFC20. Go check them out. So we've got Eddie Tosatto here to talk about how he won the Surf Rats Ball 2022.
Yeah, so the tournament is run by Bill Wetzel, right? He's got the his website, the Surf Rats Ball, and I was, I came across. I mean, I knew about Bill for a while. I've heard of the tournament before, but how he came into my radar, it was like last year, and this kind of ties into those pictures I sent you. So the last one was that really big fish, and I think last year the winner was a 44-pounder or something like that. And then I was thinking, after the tournament was over, I was like, whoa, I mean, I caught fish bigger than that. So I probably would have won it, especially that one I sent you. I think it was maybe a tournament winner for the last year's tournament. And so that, got the ball like running in my head. I was like, maybe I should, join next year. This was 2021. And the way it works is basically just you have to, join the website. I think it's $25 per year, and it's like a forum. People, there's a bunch of topics. People, share information, everything. But the tournament runs from June 1st until July 3rd. So it's a whole month long, and it's by weight, and it's an honor system. You have to weigh the fish, and you have to send a picture of the whole fish with the whole angler showing, and it has to have like a hand. I think he changes the sign every year, and he releases it in the beginning of the tournament. You have to do basically like a hand sign, like a gangster sign. with your hand, so it's, you're not using like a note picture. But so that's how the tournament runs. It's a month-long tournament, and the how I kind of thought about maybe joining was because last year I again, I don't weigh fish. I did for this tournament, but last year I think I had a fish that probably would have either won the tournament or got second place, or be in the top three. So I was like, maybe I should join this next year and give it a try. And nobody from Massachusetts had ever won it before, which I was like, that's kind of strange. We got good fish up here.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, I know Bill is from New York and Montauk scene, and so there's guys from down there. But so that's how I started thinking about joining, and and then it went from there.
How many guys would you say were participating in it this year?
See, I have to ask Bill that, because I guess so. So if you're a member, you're eligible, right? So you just have to, once he posts the rules, you gotta just make a little post. I have read the rules and I agree to abide by blah blah blah, and all you gotta do is just be a member, and you have an active membership with Bill on his website. And I mean, we could always go back and check, unless he deleted it. But like I remember, when I wrote, I agree to the rules. I was already like page 5, I think. And that was super early. So there's a bunch of pages of people signing up, but
So are we
I don't know,
talking like maybe like
I,
500 people, 500 anglers?
I'd say 500 or 1,000, maybe
Okay.
more.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
I think because it's East and West Coast, so it's
Oh, I didn't know it
it's
was West Coast too.
yeah.
Oh, very
So
cool.
anyone who's, again, a member of the website, anywhere. Oh, and there's a few rules, right? It can be from a boat, right? Of course, it can be from a river, or it has to be a surf caught striped bass. You can't swim out to catch it.
So no
So
skishing.
no skishing, no, like if you swim like super far, that's not allowed. And it's actually bait or lure. So it's simple, but it's made for surf casters. Like you gotta have your feet on some land, and you can swim out, and and can be from a boat and everything. Um,
So how many
so that,
hours did you put into to finding this winning fish?
right. So then I thought about it joining last year. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think you remember when I posted a few memes of like me winning.
Yeah.
That's me when I win the tournament.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna. So after that, I was like, all right, now I have to give it a good try. And uh, it started on, again, June 1st, and so going back to those pictures I sent you, that fish, you said the cool picture with the big mouth. That was the first day I got that one. And I was like, "Ooh, that's a good start." But then, that fish was in our, because on the first day, June 1st, one guy from Massachusetts already posted a 44, I think, Brian Silva. And so I didn't even enter that one because that was under that.
Yeah.
It was like mid 30s. It was a big fish, but it wasn't close to. I mean, I could have entered and maybe got second place, but I knew it was going to change. I needed something bigger. And then, starting in the beginning of the month, I basically fished, I want to say 4 times a week. Like I was going a lot,
And
and I
all at
was
night?
all at night. Yeah, I only fish at night. Uh, I got 2 kids and a wife and work, so basically I can only go at night. Uh, but I was, I kind of had a little system where I was going to my main spots. Maybe like one night I would go to, like, I would pick wherever the tide and everything lined up to one of my main spots, and then I would go to scouting another night, and I just go exploring. I would go to, I did a lot of scouting on the North Shore, like Gloucester, Rockport, some of those deep water, cliffy, like jagged cliffs, and because I knew I needed a big one, so like if I'm gonna get a big one, it's gonna come from there. uh, so that's kind of how I went about it. I was fishing, one of my main spots, and then I'll go scouting, then go back to my main spots. And I actually had a very good month, like up until um, I think it was the not the last weekend of the month, the weekend before. I was catching big fish. I was catching a lot of fish. I was finding fish in these new areas I was going, but nothing that would place. Maybe 30 pounders, or uh, but I still hadn't caught that one that I was like, because by this time I think we already had, first place was 49 pounds from Connecticut. Then the Brian Silva fish was still holding it with second place, and then I think it was 44. And then so I needed something at least, you know 45 pound plus. And um, and I had Orlando come. Orlando from California, NorCal Cat.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a big proponent of saving the stripers.
Yeah, he's really nice guy, good lures, and he outspoken about conservation and tactics. And so he reached out to me. He was like, "Oh, Eddie, he does this trip every year that he comes over here around June, and he kind of moves around people's houses and tries to fish different spots." And he was in the tournament too. I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm fishing hard. I'm trying to win this thing." And he's like, "Oh, cool. So can I stay over?" I was like, "Sure." And man, it was like the 2 days he was with me. It was a skunk fest.
Oh man.
Like I was catching fish like from the beginning of June all the way up until Orlando got here, and then for some reason the bite just shut off, and like we got skunked everywhere we went. And I took him to spots where I catch big fish, like some of my really good spots that always produce, and it didn't happen. It's just sometimes it just shuts off. You don't even know why.
Yeah.
And so I fished with him. That was, I think that was June 22nd and 3rd. It was like a Friday and a Saturday, and you know, didn't go well at all. And that was kind of frustrating because you know after that I only had one more weekend, and it's kind of getting hot. The water is getting, the temperature is getting hot, so the fish is they're kind of going deeper. That big like mass of fish that comes in the beginning of June has already like moved on a little bit. They're kind of more spread out, and so I had that frustrating weekend with Orlando. Dude, he puts in like he fishes hard no matter like. 'Cause he was telling me, dude, he's like, dude, in California we'll fish all night for one bite, because they're so sparse over there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not like here. And sometimes he's like, dude, I don't, this is normal to me, because we caught fish. Like I say, skunked, but like we didn't catch anything big. We
Oh,
caught
okay,
fish.
gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, we got fish here and there, like 3 or 4 in each spot, but like they were all like 20 inches or 25 inch. And he's like, dude, that's. I was like, man, this sucks. What the hell? And then he's like, man, this is normal. This is. I was like, yeah, but in the background, we're both trying to like place in a tournament, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that was the whole month. That was like I did well. I caught a lot of big fish, but nothing that would place me. Then I had that weekend with Orlando, and it didn't go so well. And I was like, man, it's cutting close. So I'm gonna need to do something here.
Yeah, how much time was left at that point?
It was 2 days,
Oh
but
my gosh.
yeah. So when I and also Orlando came on the 20th. So that whole week I was kind of disappointed. So I worked, so I didn't go fishing during the week. And then on Friday, so this is the beginning of the story. So Friday, I think it was July 1st. Yeah, Friday was July 1st. I was like, all right, I can't go out without a fight. I have to do something here. So I was talking to my wife. I was like, babe, tomorrow night, because July 2nd I could still fish, right? So I talked to her. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go fishing Saturday. I think it's gonna be a little bit better weather, and I'm gonna go on all nighter, and I'm gonna give it a try. So I was talking to her, and then she was like, oh, that's fine. You can go. And but then I was thinking, because I'm a big fan of the UFC, and Saturday night they had the Easy card with it was a big pay-per-view, and I was like, man, you know, I think I'm gonna stay home and watch the UFC. So I told her, okay, let me go Friday then, and then I'll stay home on Saturday night. And she's like, sure, that's fine, because she hates when I go 2 nights in a row.
I bet.
Usually if I go like Friday, I'll stay home on Saturday. If I go Saturday, I'll stay home on Sunday. But anyway, so then I decided to go on Friday, and I was still at work, and I work until like 5 in the afternoon. So I'm kind of the the gears starts turning. I'm trying to like, all right, so as soon as I get out of work, where can I go to get bait? You know, because I needed I needed to go all out. So I needed to find some live eels to you know to try that, because the whole month I was just trying to catch that fish on lures.
Yeah.
And
Now it was time to play dirty.
now it's time to like, all right, let me use a little cheat sheet here, because I don't use eels a lot. They're kind of pain in the ass to carry, and you gotta keep them alive. You gotta have ice. They're just
The whole
slimy.
rigging process, like it
Yeah, the
seems like
whole
a whole
rigging.
ordeal.
Yeah, I like catching them on lures, and I missed a part of the story too, because the weekend before Orlando came, I was fishing with Frank Town, Frank Gonsalves.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know him, but I know him from Instagram. He
Yeah, I was
catches
fishing
some
with him,
hogs.
and yeah, he's really good. He's one of the guys that kind of taught me a lot. And when I first met him, and I was just starting, he was already like catching pigs. But I was fishing with him and one of his buddies that I met, Kobe, and I had the chance, man. I lost a fish that night that I was fishing with him that probably would have either put me in first or second. And I even made a post about it. I couldn't turn that fish. It was right at the end of our tide. We had caught fish in the 30-pound range. I think Kobe got like a 39. And there was a lot of big fish around. We all lost like decent fish throughout the night. Like, oh shit, that would have been a good one. But then right before we left, uh, we were just kind of like winding down, and tide was slowing down, and I hooked into something, and it wasn't very far. And when the fish kind of doesn't know it's hooked, so it just kind of stays there,
Yeah.
and it doesn't run away, doesn't start running right away. So it was a little bit of a tug of war, and then the head came out of the water, and we're all three of us are kind of like shoulder to shoulder, standing like watching this, and it looked like a tarpon, like like just the head, but it was huge. It was a big fish, and then it went down again, and then zzz, and I couldn't stop it. I could not turn that fish.
Oh man.
Yeah, like we're all like, holy shit, holy shit. And it took a massive run. And then, tug of war, then started running again. And then on the third time it stopped. I was like, all right, maybe now I can turn this fish. As soon as it took off again, it just snapped clean. Took my
Man.
took my lure, took everything.
Oh, that must have been a beast.
It was big, yeah. I think it was so far, because it took, the first two runs were like insane runs, and it probably went down. And the way it just like got clean cut like that, I think the line somehow touched something down there, and then just snapped off.
Yeah.
Because it was way past the leader. So um, so that was
Heartbreaking.
my chance. That was so that happened before that weekend with Orlando. So I lost that fish, which would have definitely placed me. Then I had that crappy weekend with Orlando. And then by that time I was already like, man, I don't think this is gonna happen. Sorry. Lost my chance. Fucking fish moved out. So then we get back to that, Friday night or Friday. I'm at work. I'm talking to my wife. Babe, I'm gonna go fish one more time. I'm gonna give it a good try. I changed the date to Friday because I want to watch the UFC, and then I have to find a place to get bait, because I work in Chelmsford. That's kind of like um, in Massachusetts. That's north of Boston, like near Lowell, if you know that.
Okay.
But anyway, so I just, I looked up on the map. I found this little bait shop. It was like 30 minutes away. They closed at 6. So I left work at like 5:20. I made it over there in time. And in the meantime, I'm texting Frank. I was like, dude, you're going to fish tonight? I'm going to give it one more try. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm actually going up north. I'm going north. I was like, dude, fuck, let's go fish. That's where I'm going because I needed, that big, those deep water, like Gloucester, Cape Ann area to catch a pig. And he's like, all right, cool. Maybe I'll meet with you. And I was like, I'm getting eels right now. Do you want some? And he's like, oh, get me 8 eels. So this makes a difference on the night because uh, I bought like I think 15 eels from this guy, and it was like a little, I'd never been there. Like I was lucky this guy had live eels, but some tackle shops very small, so he didn't have any big ones.
Yeah.
So I think by getting a bunch of them, because I got 8 for Frank, I got some for me. Luckily, in that bunch, there were 3 good ones, and that I could cast, right? Because I was using a GSB 11 foot that night, and the tiny little eels, like I could barely cast them with my setup. So I got a bunch of eels, and then I had to, like, all right, let me see here where I'm gonna go. And I looked up north, and swells of like 4 foot to 5 feet, wicked like 20 knot winds. It was kind of like a shitty night, if you're fishing from the cliffs, like,
Yeah.
big, because
Sounds a little
waves are gonna,
sketchy.
yeah, it's super sketchy. And I'm looking at the map. I'm kind of like thinking, okay, where can it line up, like these conditions, right? And then I go into I think it's called Magic Seaweed. It's like where you check the swell. And there was one little spot that I've been to before, and there was no swell there for some reason. Like everything above that, it was like 4 to 6 feet. Everything below that, it was high swells and strong winds. And in that little area, there was no swell. It was like 1 foot. And there was a cove that the wind was like blowing right into it. And like it's just, like when you almost when I found that, and all the information lined up, I'm like, that, whoa, like that
Light
in
bulb.
cartoons, like the
Yeah.
light bulb, and like that little, like, right there. And I had been there before with a friend of mine, and she was like, Eddie, I've seen dinosaurs come out of here. If you ever need a dinosaur, this is where you want to fish. And so, all right, so I had my plan, and the the tide was going to be high tide at around 2 a.m. And I knew that the window for that area is like an hour and a half to 2 hours before high. That's when it happens, Um, so you kind of want to get there. Anyways, I got there super early because I was gonna be there anyway. So let me get there early. I think I got there around 7:30 or 8, so it was extremely early. But it gave me time to you know set up and everything. And funny enough, on the way there, I stopped at a convenience store, and then just getting, like, I think batteries and a Monster. And 2 guys were talking near the cash register, and I just overheard them saying, "Oh, did you see that fish that blah 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 caught this morning?" And I'm like, my ears perked up,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh, is it a big striper?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, man, they're right. They're all over blah 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 blah." And that's exactly where I was going.
Wow.
And like, these guys were old. They were probably like boat fishermen, because they were like, y- gentlemen, like in their 50s, like so they were probably talking about they were fishing that area, but from a boat. But
Yeah.
good to know there's big fish exactly where I'm going.
Yeah. That was all the confirmation you needed right there.
That's all I needed. And there was one more confirmation. Uh, After I got to the place I was gonna fish, I started with lures, nothing, just no hits. It was early. I said, high tide was going to be at 2 a.m., so I needed to wait it out. But I was just, casting lures, sluggles, just, you know, messing around. And I snagged a squid. right near the rocks where I was standing, and I was like, "Ooh, this is a good sign right here." And but didn't get one hit on lures. Just so so then kept fishing. Then because it's getting dark pretty late now. So at around like 8:30, I think it got dark. I switched to eels, and then I started catching. I was throwing those little guys because uh, I was saving the big ones for later
Yeah.
in the tide,
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely.
right before the high. And I caught a few, maybe like 25 inches, and they were like super in close. And it was good to do that because I had to use circle hooks, right? Because now there's regulation, and I've never used circle hooks. And again, I don't fish eels that much, and I lost a bunch of fish trying to set the hook. And finally I got the hang of it, where like you just reel it in slow. As soon as you feel it, you just start reeling super slow, and then it gets tight, and then you lift up, and they're there. So it was good to catch those small ones in the beginning to get the hang of it.
Yep.
uh but then then it slowed down. I mean, I had to wait another couple hours. But then I think right around 1, so yeah, maybe 12:45, 1 a.m. I shifted to, like, I walked to my left. There was another point I was looking at it that looked good, so I walked over there, and this is the window, right? So right before high, Alberto always talks about it, right? Those windows of opportunity.
Yep.
Um, and so I had this 1 hour, and I put one of the chubby eels that I had. I had three of them, and I could cast it pretty far, and there was like an outcrop of rocks, like further away. Like at the end of my cast, I was casting right behind this outcrop of rocks, right? And the wind was coming directly uh, into my face. So like the wind was pushing towards that outcrop of rocks. So and the tide was coming up. So I was like, "There's gonna be fish right behind that structure right there." And boom, like second cast, I got a 20-pounder. You know, landed that. Got another fish, maybe a little bit smaller, like a slot fish, in the teens. And then, kept casting. 45 minutes before high, I put like the one of the nice eels I had right behind that outcrop of rocks. And as soon as it hit the water, I saw the line moving already. Like it hit the water, I felt something, and then the line started, and luckily it was such a big fish that I didn't have even time to mess it up, because I just started reeling really slow, and as soon as it got tight, he was already there, and then just zzz, and then like I had switched. Another thing I did probably helped me. I was fishing my GSB 11 foot, and when I lost that fish that I was telling you about with Frank, and that big one, I was fishing my old school Lemmy glass rods. It's kind of noodly, it's very nice for like lures, and it's super like uh, uh, it doesn't have a lot of backbone. Like it's forgiving on your cast. I like fishing that rod, and then it's a 10 foot. So I had switched to the GSB, and that gave me the backbone to, like, not horse, but like I was able to turn that fish like a couple of times, when I think if I had the other rod, I probably wouldn't. And I don't know, maybe like a 10-minute fight, uh, you know, uh, and I'm looking around, and right behind me, if you look on that picture, the one I actually sent in for the tournament, there's a big rock right to my, I guess, my left. So I was standing on top of that, and on top of that, there was like another little, and so I'm looking behind, and then there's this the water comes in behind that rock, and then there was like a pool of water. So after the fire, I kind of just guided the fish into that pool, and then climbed down. And then I was like, "Holy shit! That this is it. This is the fish right here." And uh, you know, put it on the. I don't have a boga, so I grabbed it with the my plastic grips. But still, so like I was I needed to weigh the fish, right? So I brought a digital scale. It was for 80 pounds, and I tested it before. Like those luggage. It was a really nice one for luggage,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And I bought the most expensive one I could find. Like, all right, this thing is nice. And I tested with like a dumbbell. Put a dumbbell 25, boom, 25. And I got a canvas bag from like Whole Foods and like Trader Joe's. They have those like sturdy bags,
Yep.
and I just literally just cut the sides of it like straight down. So then I could like lay flat on the ground and then put the fish, like the belly of the fish on it, then hook the scale to the handles and then lift it up.
It's a great idea.
And yeah, I think so. Luke and Orlando, they've made one, I think from like, those really sturdy materials from plug bags.
Yeah.
And, but I just, I used what I could come up with.
Wait, so was Frank with you at this point, or are you totally solo?
No, so I forgot to say. So he never showed.
Oh,
And later he regretted it.
I bet I'll always
Yeah.
regret it.
Yeah, he never showed. He was going to Maine anyways to fish with a friend, and then he's like, oh, I guess he's just like, if I fished all night and I have to still drive all the way up to Maine. So it was a good, good move on his part, but still, he missed a good bite. And I could have used a hand there to help me.
Yeah, definitely, especially with taking the photo. I mean, how did you even get
Mhm.
that photo of you holding it up?
Mm. So anyway, so I land the fish. It's in the water, and like I'm just holding it with a grip. And now I'm thinking, my backpack is up there. All right, so I'm gonna weigh it first. So I grab the fish, bring it on top of that rock. There's like, I could get on top of it and put it on the ground. Grab the scale. I move the fish on top of the bag. Boom, lift it up. 50. To be honest, was like a hair under 51. It was like 50 and like
Wow.
15, but 51. Put it down, grab it with the thing, went down there again and put it on a pool. So it's like sitting there, and the gripper has, I'm connected to the gripper, so I'm just kind of sitting there and I'm thinking, all right, where now I need the picture. And I'm looking, right in front of me, there's like a little crevice on the rock, like straight where I'm looking. And I just put the phone there, standing up, put the 10-second timer, and I boom, take a picture. And I count in my head, and as soon as it's counting, I lift it with my left hand, and I'm kind of doing the sign with the right hand. And the first try is that picture I sent you that cut off the bottom.
Ah,
I was like, fuck, I mean, maybe it would have been usable, but on the rules it says it has to show the whole fish.
yeah, it's not worth
and
risking it.
everything.
Definitely not.
So then I went back, and then on the iPhone there's the wide angle, right? There's three options. There's
Yeah.
the normal middle one. There's the zoom, and then there's one that's like wide angle.
Yep.
So I clicked on that, put on the timer, and boom, that's the second picture right there.
Beautiful.
It just took everything.
So how long did it take to revive it and get it to swim off?
Probably, I'd say like, in my head counting, I don't know, a few minutes, maybe like 5. I was holding the tail for a while, and this little pool, the water was like kind of coming in, so like it was fresh water coming in, like it was, there was like bubbles, it was it was like stagnant water.
Yeah, it was like well oxygenated.
Yeah, well oxygenated water. Yeah, it was even like, some of the when there was a set coming, like he even like pushed us back a little bit.
Nice.
So I think I waited probably 5 minutes. I could tell the fish was like, when you can feel that they want to shake their tails, right? Like that movement. It's like, all right, I want to swim out. I want to swim away. As soon as
Yeah,
I
it's
started
like telling you
feeling
I'm
that,
ready to go.
yeah, as soon as I felt like, because if you let it go and it hasn't even like no twitch or anything of the tail, it's not ready to swim. As soon
Yeah.
as I felt like the tail was like giving me like little twitches, like, all right, I want to get going. I just kind of got to the edge, and then boom, and then she went.
Oh man, the tail on that thing must have been massive.
It was extremely. I think it was even like large. It was larger than normal. It was very big. The tail was super wide. The fish was. It was. It was long too. I wish I would have. I didn't want to do too much to it, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't get how long it was. But the picture where you see me holding it, it's sitting on me.
Yeah,
It's not.
you're not long arming it like
Oh no, I couldn't lift it.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
like try lifting like 50 pounds with your left hand after you're like adrenaline. I mean, of course the adrenaline helps, but like it literally I had to like put it on my body to support its weight, and like I was still kind of like uh, but the belly was big. It was a well proportional large fish.
So if you were to estimate the length of it, just a rough estimate, what would you say?
I mean, it can't be too long. 51, 52 maybe inches. You know,
Giant.
uh, yeah, maybe 50. Because I mean, you can kind of measure it by my body. I'm not a very tall guy. I think I'm like 5'9". You know, um, but still, it was like from my shoulder all the way to my ankle.
So you caught this on that day on a Friday and the tournament ended when?
So that was July 1st. The tournament ended July 3rd.
Wow,
So
real
there was,
buzzer beater.
oh man, just right at the end. Right at the end. Yeah.
Did anybody else catch any at the end that bumped anybody at a second or third?
No, I bumped everybody down.
Hell yeah, bro. That's awesome. So
Yeah, I
what
think
were the second and third fish?
so. Second stayed with the 49 pounder
Okay.
from Connecticut, and then third was from Massachusetts as well. I think it was Brian Silva. He's a very good fisherman.
Nice.
And he caught it the same day I caught that that big one with the big mouth. And but his was bigger, so I didn't even submit it that one.
So it seems like overall it's been a pretty damn good season from the surf for everybody.
Massachusetts, from the people I know and the my experience, I've only had that one stinker with Orlando. That was it happens, but yeah, there was a lot of big fish around. A lot of people were catching a lot of fish. Uh, you know, I'm glad now there's a Massachusetts winner, and two Massachusetts fish on the top there.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was a good June. Uh,
So I've heard I was just talking to Paul Dixon about this about like the state of the striped bass fishery because right now I'm hearing two different things. One, oh my god, these fish are in so much trouble. I can't find them anywhere and it's usually from the surf guys, but then I see guys like you, guys like Frank catching giant hogs out of the surf and there's other people that are saying that the fishery has never been better. So I don't know. What do you think about all that?
it's complicated. I think it's definitely the commercial fishing puts a huge dent. Like when commercial opened up, I received pictures of boats fishing like in Buzzards Bay, and it was 50 pounders all over the deck. They
So
just decimate, breeders.
so you don't buy into the mindset or the opinion that the recreational guys are actually doing the most damage because some people believe that.
No, no, I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all because I 100% don't take your fish, and you just slap it on the rocks, you don't revive it, especially big ones, it'll die. They'll die post catch and release. But the amount of big breeders that the commercial guys are not looking for schoolies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the technology they have, they'll just find a pool of big breeders. They'll sit right on top of them and just slaughter them all. And those
Yeah.
are the ones that count when it comes to the the years to come.
Yep. Definitely.
Not everybody's catching big fish. I mean, I got lucky. But like those are like I mean, maybe I've caught 5 big fish in the whole month, like real big fish. Those guys catch 20 in like an afternoon,
Yeah.
a bunch. So it's misleading. They try to blame it on catch and release, but it's not.
It seems like
I
everybody's just blaming each other. It's a big
Yeah,
finger pointing game.
I made a post about commercial where I explained that I don't want to blame them. They're like, if you're following the laws, you're not in the wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they have their rights. Like this country, if you're following the rules, you can do whatever the rules state that you can do.
Yep.
So they're not in the wrong. The problem is we should change the laws.
So do you think striped bass should be considered a game fish?
Yeah, I think so. I think they should come up with a way to help uh, commercial fishermen, and somehow incentivize them to do something like some I don't know what. See, this is very complicated because some people depend on it for their families, for their
Yeah, that's a whole
survival. So
other thing. Yeah.
there the a way to make you need to make striped bass, you need to find something more profitable for them to do.
Yeah.
If it's either guiding, I don't know, but or if it's fishing for something else, or if it's some sort of program where they it's unfortunately it'll
Maybe they
be.
lower the quota or something.
Yeah, they lowering the quota could help, but unless you find a way for commercial fishermen to make as much money as they make off stripers, so they can change their minds, then it's not going to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, recreational anglers have to practice good catch and release because fish will die if you don't take care of them.
Yeah, and I wasn't just talking about, rec guys from the surf, because from what I understand, like most surf fishermen do practice catch and release. So, I think it's a lot of the guys on the party boats, charter boats and stuff. But, I support a lot of charter boats, and, I would never want to see them not being able to make a living. So it's a very tough situation, because
yeah.
and,
I've never been on a party boat. I don't even know how it works. I don't know, that
well, it sounds like
there's
you're doing just fine from the shore. So
yeah, there's a whole culture. Like, I'm sure like it's, if I grew up, like my dad took me to like a party boat and it's fun and catch different species. There's there's always like a little tournament, right, in party boats, like
yeah,
and it's fun. A pool, yeah. And so, but that's why those people that are in charge of the taking care of the fishery, they get paid because they need to solve a problem. They literally get paid to think about solutions. So, they need to figure it out.
Yeah, they better start thinking harder.
They gotta start thinking harder. Like striped bass as a game fish, I believe will bring just as much commerce to the states that have them. People love to catch big fish, especially. So
Exactly.
if it's healthy, dude, they can grow. Dude, that fish was 50 pounds. They can grow to 100. Imagine.
Yeah, I know. I read a old newspaper clipping from, it was, I believe, 1880, and it was talking about how multiple stripers up to 150 pounds were caught.
Right. Yeah.
Can you imagine a striper 3 times the size of that one you caught?
Well, I don't think I'd land it. To land a 50-pound fish, you gotta get lucky. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a luck. Like sometimes they just
Yeah, I mean, you
nothing.
said you casted that eel right behind rocks. I mean, what are the chances you even got the fish out from behind the rock? I mean,
Right. So he went to the left first, and there was this was so lucky. So I'm fishing at this point, and then there's like a small little cove to my left. That's where the water was coming in, and it was creating that little area I could land it. And then he went out again to like a sort of like another point, and he went left first. And I was like, oh, I lost this because I thought he was gonna cut, like he was gonna. There was no way I could like run there. Like it was just too like big rocks and like uneven
yeah,
terrain, kind of crazy. Uh, and then with the GSB, I put all my strength. I put the rod like sideways, almost like horizontally, and started slowly like bringing to my right, and then it turned, and then it came to my right, and then so my
turned them.
right, I turned them. Yeah, if he had kept going that way, that was the first run. I was able to turn them, and so he came back, and then he went to my right, but the right was clear. It was like I was like, "Oh, I'm safe." So he ran big to my right side, then came back again, and then right before you land the fish, there's always those like small little runs that they take, and luckily the hook was perfectly on the upper lip, like just on the like thick part of it. It was a circle inline hook. That's what the guy. I didn't even know which one because there's an offset and there's an inline, and I guess the offset you're not supposed to use it.
Yeah.
So uh, yeah, and so I got lucky. He could have, you know, and depending on your setup too. I have 50-pound braid, and I was using 80-pound mono.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's usually what I fish, anyways.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially if you're fishing around hard structure, that makes sense.
yeah,
Is
yeah, but
that like what most of these big time surf casting guys are using, like 80-pound fluoro for the leader?
yeah, 80-pound and 50-pound braid. Most of the guys that I know that are good, that's what they use. Even if you just lures, like
Yeah.
uh, and that's what I use all the time. I was using a Venstall 275 and a
Is it
GS.
true that if you own a Van Stall that you're automatically a Sharpie?
Well,
I'm
if you own,
joking.
well, I was gonna continue the joke.
Oh, sorry, sorry. You sounded really serious.
Well, that's how it should be. Yeah, you must own at least one gold Venstall to be considered a Sharpie. Okay, and I have two of them, so I'm double
You're
Sharpie.
double Sharpie. That's great.
Yeah.
Have you ever fought a fish that was smaller than that 50 that fought even harder? Because
Yeah.
I've noticed like it's really sometimes the fish can be smaller than the last one you caught, but it fights even harder.
Yeah, dude, there's so many variables. Like that one that I lost, I couldn't even like my. We had landed 30-pound fish on that same night when I lost. I was fishing with Frank and his buddy. Uh, so my my drag was fine. It wasn't locked, but the 30-pound fish didn't spooled me. Like it took a little run. Uh, you know, uh, so that fish was unbelievable. Like I don't know, but and then there's also when you say oh big fish or smaller fish fight harder. I've landed fish that you put it on the scale. I don't have a boga, but I remember this. Like a buddy of mine put it on the scale and it was like 35 pounds. This was last year, and I'm looking at the fish. I'm like, this fish is not 35 pounds. It's a but it looked small, and I took a picture of it. It didn't look big at all. But on a scale, it was 35 pounds. So go figure that.
It's crazy.
There's lucky angles. Sometimes you get a lucky angle, right? The fish looks way bigger.
Oh yeah, it's all about the angles.
Right, it's all about the angles. Like that fish with the big mouth, the green picture,
Yeah.
that was in the mid 30s.
Oh, that one. I thought that was your 50.
No, that was yeah. So that fish looks huge,
Yeah.
and it looked huge. I even like after because I was in the water. There was fucking waves coming. And then again I don't have a boga, so my buddy came with his boga, because I was already in the tournament. So I was like, "Yo, dude, can you please just see how much it is?" So he lifted. I'm kind of looking. So maybe I read it wrong, but I don't think I did. I don't know. The numbers are so tiny in there, but I read mid 30s. And that fish was massive. It was really big. So it's all, you never know that you can catch a pig that there was a fish recently by did you see that fish by oh my god, he's what's fuck Lawton caught a fish in in Block Island. Lawton, do you know what I'm talking about from Instagram? Lawtown, I don't know.
Um.
Again, the fish looked to be 100 pounds.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, from the angle.
From the angle,
Yeah.
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 I mean, it was almost like he photoshopped himself being small. You know, he's not a big guy, but like that fish looked. And I talked to him, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, that fish is big." But it was around the 50-pound mark. But if you look at it, that's bigger than like that would have like that's just like okay, that's got to be 60 or 70 even.
Yeah.
So, uh,
Would you say that the surf casting community as a whole gets along pretty well, or is it kind of cliquey? I mean, how would you describe it to an outsider?
uh, I don't. I mean, I fish by myself pretty much 80% of the time. I fish. There's a few people I fish with, like Rob from RD Custom Plugs. He fishes with me. He actually helped me a lot in June. Like because I said I was going to some of my main spots, and then I was scouting to find like some good areas. And I'd be like, "Hey Rob, I'm gonna go scouting. You never know. It could be a skunk or it could be great." He's like, "Fuck it, let's go scout." And I fish, here and there with Frank, but most really good guys, they fish with just one, one person.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep
you
the
know,
circle tight.
that's one thing, but also, dude, I get annoyed. Like some spots, you need the 360 um, castability. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen.
You can't like it's otherwise, and some spots there's only like one little area where you're gonna fish from. If there's two people, then you have to wait. Oh, I just casted. Hold on a second, or
Yeah.
or oh, I just That's why I fish by myself. Like I like to get to the spot. I have everything for myself.
I
And I don't,
appreciate that.
yeah. I've never done a tournament like so. This was the only one where I was like trying to actually get the weight, get proper, measure, not measure, I didn't measure it, but like, I had the scale, like usually I don't have anything. What I like to do is take a really nice picture, my Instagram, it's sort of like, I like to curate like like an artsy kind of gallery. Like I
Yeah.
like to post, quality pictures, like
Yeah.
some
Quality over
different shots.
quantity always.
Yeah, quality over quantity. So I do that when I catch fish. I like to take a few pictures, but like again, always, quickly, boom, back in the water. No wait, never wait. You know, that fish from last year that put the bug in my head. I didn't get the weight on that fish, and I'm pretty certain that was close to 50.
Wow.
Uh, and that would have won last year too.
Well, now you got to watch the throne defend that
No
title
way,
next
man.
year.
One and done for me.
You think so?
Yeah, I think. I mean, maybe
Well,
it's.
I see that aspect of it. You go out on top, and that way,
How do you beat that?
yeah, yeah. How do I
You
mean?
never.
I believe you
You know.
could, but there's
Yeah,
also
but
something to
like
be said to just walk away from it and be like, I won, I never lost.
yeah, and I called it. That's what
And
the,
you
I can't
called it.
even.
You called your shot like Babe Ruth
I was like,
style.
oh, I'm gonna join this. I'm gonna win, and then I'm done. Boom. That's it.
It's amazing the power of manifestation because you
Dude,
truly believed that you were going to do it and you did it.
I believe in that 100%. Not like bullshit, secrety, like this, but like to me that those things are the more you think about something, it's not that you're gonna manifest, but again, so me thinking about spots to fish, I'm learning. I'm trying to decide. I'm making decisions. So you're manifesting information out, like in your head.
Yes, via
So
experience.
manifestation is like when you say, "Oh, if you really want it, you're gonna manifest." Yeah, because you're gonna be thinking about it, and you're gonna
Exactly.
solve whatever
You're going to be
difficulty you need.
practicing all that.
You're gonna crack the code.
Yep.
Like that night, I had so many like variables, and I had to, okay, this spot, the swell is too crazy. I can't go there. Over here, the wind doesn't match. I had to leave work early so I could get the eels. I got lucky that Frank asked for eels, because then by getting a bunch, there was three good ones in there that I could cast far enough that I could reach that structure. It's all a little bit of luck, a little bit of preparation, and
And then that opportunity.
experience
And that's it.
and opportunity. Yeah. But
So let's leave off with this. What advice would you give to up and coming surfcasters or someone that's just getting into surf casting?
well, if you really want to be a sharpie, you must buy a gold vent stall.
Definitely. That's the
Okay.
first rule.
Okay, that's the first rule. Second rule, you need to uh, go to a. So I was even gonna write an article about this, but some spots will never hold big fish, right? If you're looking for big fish,
Yeah.
first you need to find a place that will hold big fish. Like you can fish some back bay, like you can catch, you can fish there your whole life. You'll never run into a 50.
Yeah.
If you're looking for big fish, you need to go where big fish is,
Yep.
right? That's the first thing. And then once you find that spot, you need to fish that spot in all conditions.
How do you find that? How do you go about finding that spot though? Do you go and watch a spot at low tide to see what's going on? Like what?
Well, so again, from my perspective, from the types of places that I fish, it's different than New Jersey and New York, and like, because for example, I don't even know where to go on a sandy beach. I could, you take me to a sandy beach. I was like, where do I mean? I don't know. I don't fish sandy beaches,
Yeah.
right? So first, you need to get familiar with what kind of structure is around your area, right? I'm boulder fields, cliffs, uh, for big fishes, those are the types like drop offs. And, it's the old saying, like you need moving water, right? So if you're looking, like, look at like the topographic map, and when you go to a spot, you have to observe as the water is coming down, it creates a current, right? So you're looking, okay, the current's going right. Then the next day, or that day, you go to your phone and you look at what's under the surface, and you look, oh, okay, when it's dropping in this area, I see that there's a drop off right here that I can reach with a cast. So on an outgoing, if I position myself right here, my lure will swing right over that drop off, which may hold fish right there because that's the type of structure that they like, right?
Yeah.
And and you do the same, and then you go to that spot and you try that, and then you fish the same spot on the incoming, on the outgoing. You basically have to, you know uh, you gotta go. Like, fishing
You just
is,
got to go.
yeah, it's hard to, you can read about it, but when you get there, it's like you have to see it and feel it.
Oh yeah, you could read about it all you want. As soon as you get there, it could fly right out the
Right.
window.
Yeah, everything is experienced in person. Like even like how your lure swims. Oh, this spot is good, but like if you throw something that goes too deep, you're gonna get every cast. I'm like, oh, this spot sucks. But then you go there the next time with something that swims just right, and then you're gonna start catching fish.
Yeah.
It's my suggestion is just go.
I love it.
Go exploring. Like,
Send it.
pick, yeah, send it. Yeah, exactly. Just go. Be safe. Especially boulders.
Yeah.
I've been fishing way more in a wetsuit than I used to. Like I would use the waders, but if you're in the suit, you can get in the water. If you fall, it's much safer. So get a
Yeah, way
wetsuit.
less treacherous. Definitely.
Yeah, way less treacherous. Just go. It's the same thing I tell people when they ask me about arrowheads. Oh, how do you find them? It's I find them at home, online, researching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like when you want to find fish, the first thing you do is you start researching. Where is the bait this time of year? Where is the migration? The wind, the swell. You can go to a spot where the tide matches where you want to fish, but then the swell is huge, and then it messes everything up.
Yep.
So there's all the variables, that it's like a Rubik's cube. You gotta like you look at the map and you start turning things, or the wind here, the tide there, uh, and then when you find a place that it locks in, okay, right here, then you go there.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Well, Eddie, listen, thank you for calling in. And again, congratulations on that big Surf Rats ball win. Epic fish. And
Thanks, man. Appreciate
this
it.
was
Yeah, it
a
was,
great interview, dude. Thank you so much
yeah, it
for
was a
calling in.
pleasure. I listened to your podcast for a while. I like it.
Well, now you're on it, man.
Yeah, I've heard all of them. So thank
Oh,
you.
cool.
And
Thank you,
if you're
man.
ever in Massachusetts, please, let's go fish.
I will definitely take you up on that.
All right, buddy.
All right, cool, man. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Just waiting for you to do.